For about 95% of my life, we had a war in Sri Lanka. So I know full well the consequences of impunity. So that is a continuing inspiration. My name is Pubudu Sachithanandan. I'm a trial lawyer and I'm from Sri Lanka. There's a certain amount of adrenaline that's always in your blood when you're in a courtroom. And that's one of the things that draws you to be a lawyer. A trial lawyer essentially litigates cases in court. But there's also a lot of background work to that. And that takes sometimes years of investigative work, analyzing evidence, reading witness statements, reading captured documents, and coming up with the right charges against the right individual. Prosecution at the ICC is always a balancing exercise. You have to make sure that your case is broad enough to reflect the terrible things that happened in the country you're investigating. There is this instinct that you have to show the truth about what happened in these hundreds of attacks. But then there's also the need to focus your charges and focus your case enough so that the case doesn't take 5 or 10 years. A courtroom can be quite an intimidating environment for a witness, especially if you've come from a rural environment. Perhaps you've never been on an escalator, perhaps you've never seen a computer, but suddenly you're in this very artificial environment where people are wearing black robes and looking quite intimidating and sometimes asking you quite probing questions. In a normal criminal case at the ICC, you will have the kind of witness you'll be most familiar with, which is a victim witness. They're the people who were in the village that was attacked. They suffered harm. They were injured by the attackers, or their brother was, or their sister was. Maybe they lost their parents. Perhaps they were raped. And they're perhaps the most gripping kind of witnesses because they talk about their own suffering. Then you have other kinds of witnesses. You have expert witnesses who can tell you about how a mass grave was excavated. You also have people that we call insiders, and they have very insightful evidence because they are in the same organization that the accused was in, and sometimes that is also very useful evidence. We also have witnesses called overview witnesses. That is someone who can give a broad introduction to the situation. A criminal case, in a way, is a bit of a jigsaw where you try to fit in all these witnesses in a way that tells a coherent and understandable story. I've had witnesses, when I was interviewing them on the field, who refused to break for lunch. They're so enthusiastic. I've seen witnesses with horrific injuries who couldn't even sit down properly, want to talk for hour upon hour upon hour because they want their story to be told and they want the perpetrators to be brought to justice. When you talk to them, you forget about your paycheck, you forget about your mortgage in your CV, and you really realize what's important. And it's not you, it's the victims.